Wait.
Yeah,
that's what Brooklyn is.
He's cheap. He's a cheap date. He's cheap for the party.
That's what. Yeah, Brooklyn's a lightweight, and she says the same thing. She's like, I'm saving money.
Yeah. So I've got an idea about that. I bet I could put together a whole gaggle of people to come down. Just a group of people that I know, and then you could be the teacher because it's your gym. Like, how cool would that be? I know jiu-jitsu people get all up about like the who's who, right? But my people, they don't. Most of them don't care about that. They would be just fascinated alone with like, we're gonna go to Mexico and cross train at a gym. Yeah, I'm in. Like that'll be a thing.
I think that's the selling point is like, hey, why don't you come to this awesome place and then train in a gym that's like outside Ocean View, right there. And then when you're done or before the morning's training session, you can go surf. You just have that. It's just the lifestyle, that's the thing that you're pitching. That's really, I think, the big thing. Like my buddy Vince, he's not exactly like a big name. He's got that because he's got the B team thing going. I think he'll attract some people. And he's he's not as much of a smart ass as Craig Jones, but he's definitely, I think culturally he fits into that gym pretty well. He's kind of a smart aleck.
Yeah,
he can be pretty goofy, so he's pretty entertaining. I think when he's coaching.
I think I don't know. I like it when you're coaching. I enjoy it.
Oh, good. Thanks.
I picked up. I don't remember. Fuck. I wish I could remember things, but gosh dang it, I don't know what day it was. But I do. It was a few times actually. But one of the times I do remember. It's like when we were talking about the students and like. Getting them. This was, I think it was it's Friday. Trying to figure out how they learn and teaching them in a manner that way they remember that stuff. I like your take on it and I like your perspective. I listen to that stuff and I take whatever I can out of it to use. Right. So,
yeah, we do a lot of that. I nerd out on it pretty hard, trying to figure out how to learn and how to teach because. Obviously, I had no idea. When I moved down here, I was a purple belt, and I was teaching one class at my gym, at the gym that I was like home at, and it was kind of a collaboration. So I had some experience with like teaching, but it was total like, hey, move of the day. It wasn't part of the overall program. It was just me and a buddy of mine. This guy who he was like really into catch wrestling. So anything he did was like just mean.
Yeah. I like that stuff though.
Yeah. And he and I were doing that to each other.
I feel like you like that stuff too.
Yeah. I'm big on it. Like what do we say? There's no such thing as a dick move. Right? There's only like dick speeds. So if I do a move to you and I do it slowly, it's not a dick move. You can move, you can tap, you can do whatever. It's only a dick move if I like latch onto it and I crank it and don't give you
like rip hard.
Yeah, and I don't give you an opportunity to like either move your face or tap. So we would run this morning class because like nobody else was kind of teaching the stuff that he was into, and he was he was building a relationship with Neil Mellinson, of all people. And I don't know if you know who Neil is.
I don't know anybody.
He's a UFC, like MMA coach. He's the guy who famously, when he was coaching a guy in one of the early UFCs, and during their training, he broke his toe really bad, like almost like tore it off, just completely wrecked it. And so he goes to the doctor and he's like, hey, my guy's got a fight coming up. It's like UFC 5 or something. It's a big deal. And the guy's like, well, your toe's pretty messed up. We can like splint it and in 3 months you can train again. He's like, that's not going to work. He goes, I could just cut it off and you'd be ready to go like in a couple days. He's like, then that's what we're doing. And he did. He just cut his toe off. And so you'll see him in the videos and he's demonstrating. And he's got, the thumb toe, and then he's missing the other one, and then he's got the other toes, and it's just not there. Because he's just like, I gotta amputate my toe.
Yeah.
I think it was like, and that's just, so he's got like your perspective, right? He doesn't care about sport jiu-jitsu. He only cares about jiu-jitsu and fighting and how it translates to MMA. So he does a lot of stuff that's kind of, if it doesn't hurt, then you're not doing the technique right. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of that kind of stuff. And he and I, so we were teaching, we got into it. And it was funny because people would show up like, oh, it's great. 8 a.m. We'll show up and we'll train. And they would come in, and then within a few weeks, they're like, you guys suck. I don't want to train with you anymore. And he and I would just go to town and like just kind of like abuse each other. And it was like, because you had that relationship, like I knew I could trust him. He was never going to injure me.
Yeah.
And that's when you learn the difference between, hurt and injured. And I was like, okay, this hurts, but I'm not injured. And I could trust the guy to do, he would do things to you that you're just like, I'd be pissed if anybody else did it. But,
Yeah, that's it. Good training partners are important. Super important.
Yeah, it's hard to cultivate.
Yeah. Something I noticed though down here, I kind of want to, I don't know. Who was the kid I was training with on Friday night? Ryan, I think. I don't know his name. Anyway,
kind of a gringo kid.
He'd get me in side control and like inch me up into his lap, and then and I'm like, Jesus, I can't fucking move. I thought we're just drilling, guy, but you can't language barrier. But anyways,
oh yeah.
Show you
Brian. Yeah, Brian, the new guy. Conozca Brian is.
Pardini, Brian Pardini, Mexican.
Yeah, Mexicano.
He's
super new too.
Yeah, it's super new.
It's funny.
A week.
A week? Oh,
a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, he showed up. He was coming around for a couple weeks, and then he disappeared. And then he just showed back. That was like his first night back, the night that he was with you.
Okay.
And I was like looking at him. I'm like, oh man, I'm tired. I don't want to be rolling with Brian right now because he's just, he's huge, he's big, he's athletic, he's really tough.
Yeah.
He's a white belt. He's a spaz.
Yeah.
The second class knockout one girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the, I think that's the funny thing is, it's all vengeance, right? Because when I was in the States and I trained with this one guy, Scott Fritzinger, and I started day one with him. It was I was doing Taekwondo, and the Taekwondo school, the guy who owned the school was like, he didn't want an MMA school, right? We weren't tough enough to be, you guys. But it was sort of like an executive MMA school where he wanted to teach mixed martial arts, but he didn't, it was for soccer dads, it wasn't like, it wasn't for future fighters. It was for guys who, it was just that he realized that like Taekwondo, it had its day in the sun. And so he, to get a Taekwondo, a new belt from him, you had to go through, there was like the Taekwondo moves, right? And it's like all the katas and the jumping around and kicking in the air and all that good, super helpful stuff. And then, so we did that stuff, but then you also had to do, when you started, he had you do Krav Maga for like street defense. And he would have this guy come in and kind of guest coach, and he was actually pretty good. There was a lot more like how to kind of get out of, people grab you on the street, that kind of stuff. A lot less like, I'm just going to poke you in the eye, which I love, and guys like, I'm just going to poke you in the eye. I'm like, I'm just going to let you poke me in the eye. Sure. Because I'm sure you have the accuracy to just poke me right in the eye,
I don't know why people think that is a thing.
yeah, like, oh, yeah, I'll rip your ears off. I'll do whatever it is that Krav Maga guys think they're gonna do. I'm like, if you could do that, then you can just punch me in the face hard. And that'll deter me. There's no need to like put your thumb in my eye.
You're looking at women's self-defense videos.
Yeah, just punch me.
Just
Do you remember that one day we looked at the women's self-defense videos on YouTube? We're playing them at the gym. And
Yeah,
it was like
yeah. Oh, that's
ridiculous
horrible.
stuff.
It's
Yeah.
painful
Like,
to watch.
yeah, it was just like, it's so bad.
yeah, if you can do that stuff, like honestly, I mean, I've never been brave enough to do it during a self-defense class, but like, yeah, feel free to kick me in the groin. Like, see if you can really do that when I'm coming at you. Are you actually going to be able to kick me in the groin, jab me in the eye,
Yeah,
or
So-
take your keys? Are you
yeah,
gonna?
I've seen
Are
that
you gonna
between
do
them.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't understand, regular folk don't understand the dynamics of fighting. Like, I'm trying to do what I want to do to you, and you're trying to solve whatever it is that I'm trying to do to you, and you're trying to do what you want to do to me, and I'm trying to solve what you're trying to do to me, and we're doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
Very dynamic.
Yeah, we're both trying to accomplish something.
Yeah. So, like, okay, I guess you can just punch me one time and then that's it. It's not a thing.
Yeah, no.
Drives me nuts. People drive me nuts.
That's when I first got here, before Oscar showed up and helped me figure out.
You want to know that story.
Yeah, but before he showed up and explained to me like how it worked down here, I was trying to teach women's self-defense because I think, oh, that's a good way to suck people in, right? I'll teach self-defense classes, and because I'm an expert in women's self-defense, being both a woman and whatever else I need to be, I did a lot of research and I found out like the number one thing is that and I'd actually had it happen to me in relatively safe circumstances, but like I was in Europe and I got like caught up in some stupid scam, and it's like one of these old tricks that people in Paris or all over Europe, they play on tourists. And it's the gold ring scam, right? Where they find this, worthless ring. They find this worthless ring on the street and they go up to you and they're like, hey, I found this thing. Is it yours? And then you get sucked into this whole thing where you end up like getting conned out of money for the ring. They're like, well, here, why don't you take it? Here, just give me a few euros for my trouble kind of thing. And the whole time this thing was happening, I'm like, I'm getting scammed. This is stupid. I have no interest in this ring. I can tell it's just a piece of brass. It's not anything I want. But I'm too polite to say no. And as a foreigner, I feel so, and the whole time I'm just like, I'm having an out of body experience as I'm getting scammed. Like I can't stop it somehow because I'm so conditioned to be nice to this person who's clearly scamming me. And so I had the idea, like the problem with, like women are so conditioned to be like polite and nice and not make a scene that when a guy is making them uncomfortable, they don't want to be like, hey, obviously I can curse on this thing, right? Hey, get the fuck away from me, right? You're not allowed to say that because if you do that to me on the street, people are like, what's up with you? What's your problem? Like that guy wasn't doing anything yet. So I was trying to condition the couple of gals that came into my class. I was trying to teach them like, when I do this to you, it's obvious that if you tell me, hey, stop right there. Like 5-10 feet is the distance I'm comfortable with. Just stop. Tell me what you need. But don't come any closer because you're making me uncomfortable. And then I'd be like, and we'd do this role playing stuff where that was happening. And I'd be like, hey, don't be a bitch. Come on, be cool. I just need to know what time it is. Or can you look at my phone? I'm lost. And I was trying to body language as much as I could that I was clearly intent on grabbing them.
Yeah.
And, doing them harm. It was obvious. And they just couldn't overcome the conditioning to be like, hey, stop right there. Don't come any closer. You're making me uncomfortable. And that's how people like grab women and assault them on the street. is they just rely on like this ingrained sense of be polite, be nice, don't be, aggressive, don't make a scene. And that's criminals take advantage of that all the time. And I was like, that's what I'll teach them to do is tell me like, hey, stop. And I say, if you tell me to stop and I keep coming, then it's on, right? You know that you're in a dangerous situation. Now's the time to think about whether you can poke me in the eye or kick me in the balls or any of that other stuff or just run away. And that's the time, like, don't wait until I've got my hands on you because then it's too late. I don't care how much, Krav Maga or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever you've got. If I'm 185 pounds and I've got my hands on you, it's over, right? So I'm going to overpower you. And that's just the fact. And especially if you're untrained, you went to a weekend at the yoga place and they taught you how to stomp my foot or hit me in the throat or any of those other things that you're not going to do. If you can't tell me to stop 5 feet away, you're definitely not going to like punch me in the trachea. I can promise you. So yeah, people just have these completely unrealistic ideas of what they're going to be able to do under duress.
Yeah, I have friends that have the little like self-defense kits on their keychain. She's like a huge keychain. It has like the mace, everything, and the little resin-made thing where you put your knuckle in it and you're gonna stab someone.
And it looks like a bunny or something, right? So it's cute.
But it's like resin poured and it's plastic. And I'm like, what do you think? In what situation are you gonna get this out of your purse? This thing of like 20 keys and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, and then the little alarm thing too. And it's like the idea of what would happen actually on the street is.
Yeah, and then you're going to be able to punch a guy who's moving rapidly towards you.
I think women definitely underestimate the strength of a big guy versus like someone my size. It's pretty crazy. We talked about this. I was like, I would love to be at the level in grappling where I can out technique someone who's untrained but a guy but bigger than me. And they're like, there's certain things still there that you might not ever be able to because it's like they just have a different strength over you. So
yeah, I'd love to be able to do that too. When I roll with Oscar, there are times when I'm like, okay, I've got 40 kilos on Oscar. That's the only reason why this is working. Now he's too feisty that I'm not going to give that up. I'm still going to try to smash him, because he's tough, right? And if I let him get on top of me, it's going to be really unpleasant. So I just lay on him, and I know it the whole time. I'm like, I'm not like doing jujitsu. Yeah. I'm just fat manning the hell out of this guy, right?
He's too strong and too fast.
Yeah.
He's going to get tired.
Right? I'm like, hey, I'm stronger and bigger than him. He's younger, faster, and more athletic than I am, so we're even. So I can just lay on him. If I can lay on him, that's his fault for letting me lay on him, right? That's not on me. That's on him. Plus, I tell him to eat more, and he doesn't. So it's not my
Can we
fault.
talk about the story of like how Oscar started training with you?
Yeah. So I'd been down here for a little bit and I was trying to I'm a day class guy, again with the executive martial arts program, like got the lunch break, everybody shows up and, we do our thing. And he reached out to me, I think on Facebook or something and said, hey, you're doing, jujitsu. And he's like, I'm an MMA fighter. And I'm like, great. That's just what I need.
Yeah.
Right. I need this wild guy who's going to want to go no gi and he's just going to be, for older gi based guys, like we don't like MMA guys because it hurts and they explode out of stuff that we think works and it's, and they're athletic and fast and all those things. Right. So it's not a lot of fun for us. So I was like, okay. And then I met him, we talked a little bit. And he's like, hey, I would meet him down at the beach. I started to surf at about this time. So anytime I was down at the beach, we would talk. He's like, hey, when are you going to offer night classes? And I'm like, God, like 6 o'clock, 8, like most of the schools down here, like they offer class at like 8 o'clock at night.
That's so late.
I'm old.
Yeah,
Like-
that's exactly what I said when he's like, come train at 8. And I'm like, no,
Oh my
I'm
God.
going to go to bed.
Yeah, like I'm in my like PJs, you know, and not my gi. I'm in like my real jammies. You know, I got the slippers. I'm ready to go. 8 o'clock? No way, man. It's hard enough for me to like wrap up at 8 and then still fall asleep by 10. You know, so I'm like, no, you're gonna make me miss Matlock. I'm not gonna train at. He's like, if you.
Fucking dating yourself.
It's, you know, it's part of it, right? You got to accept who you are.
Hey, it's good. It's good.
So, you know, he kept bugging me. He's like, come on, man, come on. Just, you know, he's like, if you offer classes at 6, I will show up with guys from the beach and we'll come in and we'll train. And then at that time, you know, I was trying to offer 8 o'clock classes, 9 or 10 o'clock classes. And I would have guys come in and they would, you know, and it just wasn't happening. I had these 2 guys who were really nice guys. And they would come in at like 9 in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. And I would try to train them and I'm teaching them all the normal stuff. And then I'd be like, okay, guys, let's roll. And then to get these 2 guys to like, you know, fight each other, it just wasn't in their DNA. And it was something like, you know, anybody, you know, in America, I don't know, we just have this wrestling culture where like, if you tell 2 people to like go, hey, wrestle each other, like they're immediately on each other. And it may not be jujitsu, but it's 2 guys trying to at least hold each other down. And these guys wouldn't do it. And then I'd be like, okay, come and roll with me. And they're just too respectful. Like they would never try to beat me. So it's just me outweighing them by 20 kilos, smashing them, choking them. I'm like, seriously, fight back. You need to like try to stop me from doing this. And they're just like, but you're the professor. We don't do that. I'm like, So then Oscar started coming.
Should have poked him in the eye.
Yeah, I should have kicked him in the groin, right? That would have gotten him fired up.
Scratch.
Yeah, so Oscar, it wasn't working, so I was like, fine, I'm just going to do it. So, you know, I told Oscar, okay, great, we'll do like 6 p.m. That's as late as I can go. And good to his word, he showed up and he brought like a couple other guys, you know, like young athletic surfers who have all quit, right, by now. None of them are still training with us. But he was showing up. And he was willing to fight me. That was for sure. There's no question about that. Oscar knew when it was go time. So I was like, okay. So we just started doing that. And we went almost to, when we were here at the original location in Todos Santos, we were only at night. We didn't offer any day class. We didn't start doing that until we moved over to Pescadero. And that's when the school started growing. So I had Oscar and then Ryan started showing up. Right? Leo showed up. And that was like really the core. And that's what started. Then we started getting enough guys and, you know, then we were right next to a gym. And so we'd get the guys would stick their heads in and, you know, like what the hell is going on? And fortunately, you know, between Oscar and like everybody knows Ryan in town. He grew up in this town and he sticks out like a sore thumb because he looks like he's from the Midwest of America. You know, he's this, you know, like tall white kid, but everybody knows him because he grew up here. And so they'd be like, so Ryan was always, you know, hey, come on in. And then we started getting guys to come in. And that was really what started. And then Leo popped in. He said he was driving past it. He looked at it about 20 times and had never stopped it. And finally he walked in. And that was really that was like the core. So between Oscar, Ryan, and Leo, those were like the 3 guys that really started the core of it. And
that's their beginning journey?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Oscar had trained before.
Before.
Yeah.
In Peru, right?
Yeah,
You got some Vale Tudo fights.
yeah, vale todo. This time is vale todo.
Yeah.
Super disposable kick on the floor. Disposable kick on the floor.
Soccer kick.
I have one fight with a kick on the floor with all rules.
Wow.
Yeah, but in my first time, I think, okay, it is real. You know, it is this real situation. You know, maybe in the streets, you need the self-defense. It is a real. You know? It is the reason I think, okay, it is my sport. I want to practice martial arts, mixed martial arts. And then when I come Mexico, I train with Lobo Gym. It is the reason I love the night for training with Pancho Brazo. And Pancho all the time tell me, hey, the Lobo's training on the night. And training 8 and almost 12 in the night.
That's pretty cool. That's like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And then when I come here,
You're young.
No.
yeah, and then when I come here, I want to see people like me. Oh, where are the people were? And then I know.
Sleeping. They're not awake at that time.
Yeah, I trained one time in Pescadero. I trained in Pescadero, and one girl look at me when I training. No, I train in shadowboxing. I buy one bag, and they go, hey, I like it you training. Hey, training me, please. Okay, bye, training, okay. I wanna train in this moment, but I need a partner. You know, it's different when you training with a beginner, or when you training with the people you know. Yeah, and then when I know Gary and Todos Santos, when I see the mat, it is really nice mat. No, it's really. And then I talk with Gary, you know, and the first time sometime training only me and Gary, it's okay. And then more people, more, and then make it the plan with the kids, and the Muay Thai, and now it's like a big family, no?
Yeah.
Now in Pescadero is really nice. It's a big group. It's like a big family now. Kids and jiu-jitsu guys
Yeah, I
and
saw
Muay Thai.
your Instagram, all the kids in that picture.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, it's terrible. The kids, man, they're
Are you
like,
sure you're talking about that?
I knew it was coming.
I work in my passion
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
kids.
It's cool.
they're
It's
like
not Gary's, but
they're like
it's okay.
dogs, right? They can smell the fear. They know that I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to the kids. So it's like, you know, like I can't remember, what was that movie like where the kids, they come and they kidnap this kid and they're trying to like ransom the kid to the family who's really wealthy, and at the end the kidnappers have to pay the family to take him back because he just runs roughshod over them. And that's like the kids, man. I have no ability to like Oscar's really good. He knows how to be tough with them, and he can be sharp and discipline them. And I either have like they're completely running over me, or they're crying. Like I have no ability to find that sweet spot where like the kids respect me, they don't. They fear me a little. But then, like, they go immediately from, like, you know, oh, this guy's such a pushover to crying. And I'm like, you know, okay, Oscar, like, where are you? You know, we had a kids program when we first started. That was the only thing we had, because the guy. So, the gym was originally opened by a guy. He's a black belt. He's a Gracie Baja black belt he started in Texas, and then he got his black belt in San Diego. This guy Rick, and he came down, and that's how we started. Was he had the mats, he was renting the space, and every time I would come down to visit, it took me 2 visits before I could find him. He had no social media presence. You Googled Todos Santos BJJ, there was nothing. And I finally posted on Reddit. I'm like, man, I'm in Todos Santos. I need to train. Like, has anybody ever heard people like, oh, there's this guy in La Paz, there's these guys in Cabo, and and they train at 8:00 at night. So I got to go to Cabo and then train at 8:00 and then come back. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And somebody finally was like, oh, there's a place behind Aldo's gym in Todos Santos, right by the Burger Shack. So all directions in Mexico are like, oh, you go to the beer store, and then across the street from the beer store, if you go up past the little pharmacy and the sunglass shop, there's a gym there. And behind the gym, I've seen a sign. And so I went there and I found it, and there's this old beat up sign and it had a number on it. So I got a hold of him, and I got a hold of Rick's wife. And she's like, oh, yeah. I'll put you in touch with him. And so every time I would come in, I'd like, hey, Rick, I'm in town, let's train. And half the time he would like meet me. Other times he's like, oh, I'm too busy, or he wasn't down here full time. So once I started coming down and I said, hey, I'm moving down here, he's like, awesome, here's the key. I'm like, okay, great. What do I do now? He's like, the gym is yours, take it. I was like, okay, we have all these mats. We have like all the Dollamore mats. They're nice. And he's like, I'll pay the rent. Don't worry about it. So he paid the rent on the space. He gave us the mats. And we had a girl, Carla, who was teaching the kids. And he had promoted her to blue belt. You remember Carla?
Yeah.
Right? So she was teaching the kids, but it was free. And so basically it was just daycare. Like the moms would come in to go to the gym, and then they'd like throw their kids and make Carla like, run them. And
that's great.
I was like, awesome, right? It was just a place so mom could get a workout, But a couple of the kids seemed to actually like be interested. At least they seemed to like to choke each other. And then that was kind of the only thing that was going on. And so I was like, okay, I'll start showing up at this one time. And then once Oscar and I agreed when we were going to do it, he convinced me. That's when we started doing it. And the kids would be beforehand. And then eventually Carla stopped showing up. I think she moved to Cabo, and then she was driving back and forth for a little bit. And then I was like, okay, this doesn't work. So Oscar took over the kids. And then after that was when you started the Muay Thai, right?
Yeah.
Have you been teaching before that too?
Yeah, I teaching in Argentina, and Peru. I'm only fighting, and then I training in Chile for 1 year, and then in Argentina.
That's so cool. That's so cool that you just traveled around like South America, and now you're in Mexico.
Yeah, but all the time watching for my people, my people are training. Where is training?
Yeah.
But here is the first time I train in Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with the G. I trained long time for only MMA, But
I'd never tried the gi. I'd never tried any chokes with the gi or anything until I was in your class and you were like, just try it. And I was like, wow, I can grab onto their clothes. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's many options.
Yeah.
It's like other word with the G. Mm. But it's possible for self-defense, eh? With the
T-shirts,
yeah, with T-shirts, jackets.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I kind of look at it backwards, right? Like usually, like when you start traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they're like, all right, put on the gi. And you put on the gi and they teach you how to like, oh, you're going to cross collar choke this guy with a gi. And that's like a big moment for people. They're like, oh my God, I can like just grab your, the manga, right? And just, choke people. This is pretty amazing. I can choke people essentially with like this heavy duty bathrobe, and people get pretty excited about that. Mm-hmm. But like for me, I prefer to start people without the gi, because I think that like people, like they get this grip and they don't know what to do with it, but it's so solid. The kimono is so solid. You just grab onto it and you're like, please, baby Helio, deliver me from, you know, whatever is happening. And they just like grab these grips and they just won't let go. And it's like, that is not helping you at all, right? That is actually hurting you. And I used to do this thing where they'd grab the collar. You know, I would like be in mount or something and they grab the collar and they're like, oh, please. I'm like, okay. And I can get up and walk around them. I'm like, just don't let go, right? And then you just arm bar them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, awesome. I'm just going to go with this. And you're like, see, like, it's not.
They're moving.
Like, it's not helping you, right? But it's too hard to tell people, like, you have to quit it when it's not working for you anymore, right? That's like a big, you know, in life, right? It's hard enough to tell people, like, that's not working for you anymore. You've got to stop doing that. But then especially you put them into a situation like that, and you're like, I would rather you train with no grips to start and learn how to use, you know, your body and your weight and all those things, you know, long before you start to use the grips. I think if you learn the grips, the kimono grips later, it'd be better for you, you know. And I think it's kind of backwards from the way it's traditionally done, but, you know, it's kind of my unpopular opinion is better start no-gi and then learn how to go and start choking with, like, hey, now I know how to move around and now I get to choke you with this stuff. Awesome. Because we were doing this one,
Oh, wow.
you know, where I'm like, oh, pull my jacket open and I can choke you with my jacket, right? I can choke with the tail of my jacket. People get, they're like, oh man, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, it's really pretty cool, but it doesn't work like if you don't know how to do any of the other stuff. But now it's just this added bonus. Like, oh, you know, it's like teaching people how to, you know, fight with a sword or something. Like, you got to kind of know how to fight first. You know, you have to have some basics of, like, you know, before you give them a sword, people are like, oh, I got a sword, I'm just going to start hacking away. Like, that's going to be detrimental to your progress. You know, you're not a samurai just because I put this thing in your hand, right? You still have to know how to fight a little bit. Mm-hmm. At least in theory.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah, but down here it's so traditional. Like, a lot of schools, you know, like when we go down to open mats, you know, you can tell because we train in the gi 6 on, 6 off, right? When it gets too hot, usually July, we go no gi. And then we were like 6 months no gi. And then come January, when everybody in Baja is freezing to death, you know, because it's 70 and we're all dying.
Hypothermia weather.
Yeah, people are wearing parkas. You know,
it's kind of cold right now, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that breeze
right? Is not kind.
No, this is the time. You know, but guys, you know, you go down and then like all the more traditional schools, you know, they've been training in the gi all the time, and like you're watching guys that have only trained no gi, and they're just getting like, you know, baseball bat and cross collar choked left and right. And I can feel it myself, even though I started in the gi and did only gi for like the first 5 or 6 years of training. Like, I forget, like, oh, when the guy grabs me like that, that's like danger. That's the time I should be really concerned about him grabbing my collar like that. And being in no-gi only kind of makes you disregard that. You're like, oh, I'll just smash him, it'll be great. I'm just gonna move around him. And then suddenly they're like, foolishly, somebody's trying to pick your feet up because you've passed out.
Yeah.
You know?
Jiu-jitsu. You guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the fun part about it, right? I mean, somebody was asking me, well, where did Chris come from? Like, he's obviously, I'm like, well, he doesn't do jiu-jitsu per se,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Right?
did you never train
I
in
put it
the...
on twice, I believe. Once for sure, but I'm pretty sure twice. And then the second time, well, the first time I actually remember because I was like, I thought it was bullshit. Because at that time, I'd like to think that I had a pretty good guard. And they grabbed my knees and they put them together and then they pushed them over to the side. And I was like, you can't do that. I mean, I know you can, but you can't do that. You can't just grab my legs and push them over there and then pass so easily. And I couldn't stop it because I couldn't move. I was like, this is dumb. So then I tried it again. I was maybe a little negative at first. And then I tried it again, and then they did it again, and I won't put it back on. That's not why, though. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever put it on. I'm not saying no. But it's like I was telling you the other week, the other people, all the other students too. Like I actually don't have. I don't think I have very good jiu-jitsu at all. My game is predicated on top position, and if I'm on the bottom, I'm getting back up to the top. I do not care about. I mean, if it's there and you leave it, I'll snatch it up. But I'm not trying to berimbolo and get punched in the face while I'm doing that.
Excuse me.
I'm not trying to omoplata and no. I
Yeah.
want to be on top.
Yeah, it's different being in our gym and then going to other gyms and then they like pull guard or at the tournaments too.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shit. Well, now I'm in your guard. And now it's just like me trying to but it's like, oh, we started and now I started in your guard. But I was standing the whole time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu for MMA is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
You know, probably same for MMA. I couldn't speak on cross anyways, but I'm sure there's pros and cons to everything. There's like stuff you can pull from each, right? Like we don't use Taekwondo, but there's a few kicks in Taekwondo that are definitely solid.
Yeah, I love, when I got my Taekwondo black belt, I promised myself that I would learn. I really wanted to learn a couple things. One of them was judo.
Yeah.
But by then I was probably already in my late 40s, early 50s. I quickly learned that judo is not something that guys my age train because getting thrown that often is just not conducive to me, like getting up the next morning and moving around the house with any kind of like fluidity. It's just, it's just hard. It's so hard on the body. I don't care how many doing break falls. Like we just did a section at the gym where we decided I'm going to teach judo. I mean, forget about the fact that I don't know any judo. I'm going to teach judo, right? So I had a couple things that I kind of knew, and of course the internet's super helpful. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to try to teach these guys a couple like judo things. And just teaching them break falls, man, like I was eating Advil every night and, just, it was just killing me. Just teaching break falls was super hard on my body. And I'm like, okay, well, so I'm not going to learn judo. That's out, but, I started to, I was like, oh, Taekwondo. So I started doing Muay Thai. And that was pretty fun. You find out very quickly that, like in jiu-jitsu, I don't care how you're built, right? Like the big lie in jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu's for everybody. I'm like, no, it's not. You have to be a psycho to like jiu-jitsu. There's got to be something like a little bit wrong with you, to love jiu-jitsu. There's all the close contact. There's the sweatiness. Like your personal bubble has to be really small. You have to be a hugger.
You're not a hugger.
See, you're probably more of a striker, right? Like, stay away. Like I have my personal space, right? It doesn't help that like I've got T-Rex arms, so like. So when I'm fighting somebody, if I'm doing any kind of striking art, right? Like there's this whole, like 70% of the time you can hit me, I cannot hit you. Then there's 30% of the time where I was getting hit, trying to close the distance, then I can hit you. You can still hit me, but now at least I can hit you. And so, so I was doing Muay Thai and I realized very quickly, like, man, this is not for me. But jiu-jitsu, you can be long-limbed, you can be short-limbed, you can be tall, you can be short, you can be stocky, you can be lanky. And there's a jiu-jitsu game that'll work for you. That's what I like about it is like, it's not for everybody. It's for every body type. There's no, you know, if you look at like guys who are really good at jiu-jitsu, you know, some of them are, you know, like Marcelo Garcia. He's pretty stocky. He's not a tall guy.
He's
you know,
pretty short.
Yeah, he's short and he's got
ass and legs.
Yeah, he's all ass and legs, right? And then there's guys like Keenan Cornelius. He's really lanky. You know, or Gordon Ryan. You know, he's super roided out. That, you know, and that helps him. But then you've got like Mikey Musumeci, who
that kid. Yeah.
You know, or like the other Ryan, right? You know, Ryan Hall. Like, he's the nerdiest. You know, he's got Tourette's. You know, he's blinking all the time. He's got a dad bod. He's like super scary. You know, so you don't have to have any particular build to do jiu-jitsu. Whereas with striking arts, I think if you got short arms and you're slow, striking's not for you. It's just not going to work out. You know, you just, unless you really, really, really like getting punched in the face a lot. And I discovered I didn't. I liked punching people in the face. I do not like really getting punched in the face. It's not like my thing.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's a lot of people's thing to get punched in the face, but that's not true.
What?
Santos.
Oh yeah.
Talking about liking getting punched in the face. I was gonna say he's
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's crazy.
Yeah, and then, you know, for a lot of people, like, you know, if you're gonna do striking arts, right, you have to like punching people in the face enough to trade getting punched in the face. And for me, like I'd get punched in the face 10 times, so every time I got to punch you in the face, it's just not a good deal. You know,
it's not a fair trade.
It's not a fair trade. I'm not willing to make that trade. You know, so, you know, I started focusing more and more on jiu-jitsu because, you know, A, nobody's punching me in the face, and B, I'm not, you know, my body type isn't like a huge disadvantage. You know, like you can be short and stocky and you can do jiu-jitsu with a fair bit of success. You know, so that works for me. You know, I like that, and I'm heavy, and I'm clumsy, so it's nice. So like half of jiu-jitsu is falling on the other guy, like at the right time. You know, so I can do a lot of that. Like I'm super good with stuff like that. Like, hey, I'm just falling down. It's not pulling guard. It's tripping with style, with grips. It's tripping with style. I'm falling with grips. Right. You know, but that's, you know, I love that part about it, and the gi is fun because it's like there are like a lot of stupid things you can do to people, you know, that they don't, you know, especially if somebody's new, they have no idea that it's happening, you know, and that's always the goal, right? Is like the last thing you want to hear from a guy's mouth is like, I don't think it's on, and then they're just gone, right? That's the goal, always. It's for them to have no idea that they're about to go to sleep.
Oh my God, I'm like, dude.
Falling with grips.
Oof.
Gotta compose ourselves.
I know.
Right, you're gonna have to cut out like all that part where we're just like,
Yeah.
that'll be the outtake, right?
Yeah, Junior's gonna be like, we can't use any of this.
Right.
I don't even think we introduced you guys. I think we just started.
Whoa, I think we're past all that stuff.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna do an intro anymore.
Okay.
I think it's dumb.
Does everyone know you're in Mexico? Todos Santos?
We'll tell 'em.
We'll
We're in
tell
Mexico.
them.
Yeah.
We
Hey.
know now.
Oh, hey.
It's on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we're in Todos Santos, Mexico.
Did you introduce yourself?
Baja California Sur, as we like to say. It's Todos Santos BJJ, Baja Jiu-Jitsu. Because we no hablamos portugués, way. Right? That's we don't speak Portuguese, dude.
No.
Like it's not really Brazilian jiu-jitsu anymore. It's more
I gotcha.
we're definitely on the Mexican ground karate kind of tip,
Mexican ground karate.
right? Stealing
You should get
liberally.
that on your shirts.
Right, but I think Craig Jones would have something to say about that. He might come and talk to me. That's what his thing is, the Mexican ground karate.
Did you talk about how you initially met, you and Chris?
Oh yeah.
No.
How you guys
Not
met?
really.
How did this come to be?
I was here in July, and I was actually supposed to go do an interview with somebody And then just by chance, I think earlier in that day, it was earlier in the same day. So earlier in that day, I drove by and I saw jiu-jitsu and I was like, no fucking way. So I sent you a message. I was like, you guys, what's the schedule? You guys training tonight? So then an hour before the interview, I was like, should I reschedule and go train? I was having a real internal battle.
Yeah.
Because I don't like canceling on people, and it's not right to cancel to go train. So anyways, I canceled and I went to go train.
Yeah, I'm not sure that
Things didn't work out there anyway. Doesn't matter. And that was real. Man, that whole trip was wicked cool. But training was cool. We met the next day. We at Baja Beans and we chatted. And then I was supposed to leave. That's right, because Ryan was in class. And then after we talked, you were like, you should link up with Ryan and chat with him. So I chatted with him, I think the same day or after I met with you, which I'm pretty sure that's the way it went down. Memory is not a strong suit for me. And then he scheduled an appointment for me with his accountant here in town, right over there. And then that was on a Friday, but I was supposed to leave, I think, on a Thursday, which was my birthday. So on my day of birth, you and me and Oscar, that's probably, I'll never forget that shit. So on my birthday, we were at the beach, and for like an hour, we did Thai clinch work.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. It was like, it was on the beach. I think
in
sounds
the
like
Palapa.
It sounds like a romantic story.
Right.
So we were on the beach.
Sunset.
The sun was setting. We spent an hour close quarters, clinching, not kissing, but clinching. And then he tripped me. That was funny. I haven't been tripped in a while.
Yeah.
I fucking laughed. And then the families were there and they were egging us on. They were laughing and ooh, oh.
Yeah.
And then we were covered in sand and we jumped in the ocean together. We didn't hold hands, but we jumped in the ocean together. And then we got out and we went and got a drink. And then we sat and watched the sunset the rest of the way. And I'll never forget it.
Yeah. That's the other thing I think about jiu-jitsu in general. Like, you have to be pretty comfortable about where your sexual orientation is. Yeah. Otherwise, it all feels really super awkward.
Yeah, it's funny this day. And I remember all the time that people watching when they training on the beach. Sometimes training on this palapa with the people. All the time the people watching. I kicked my student. But this day is funny. He kicked my ass. And then all the people in the family, oh. And he make it like easy. On the side,
Yeah.
That was a great day. I loved that birthday. That's probably my most favoriteest birthday I've ever had that I can remember. That was a good one. And then on Friday when I came back to train again, right when I was leaving, like everybody stopped, turned to me, and sang me happy birthday. I wish I would put it on camera, but I didn't. That was really good. That was awesome. That was my most favoriteest training week. I think that's when I fell in love with this place. I like this place. So, anyways, that's kind of like how we met.
Yeah, of course, you reached out to me. You're like, hey, I coach an MMA gym. I'd like to come down, and I'm always like, oh God.
Yeah, the MMA guy.
Yeah, here he comes, and then you walk in, and I'm like, yep. Right, like shaved head. He's all muscular. I'm like, oh God, this is just gonna be brutal. I'm just gonna feign an injury, and I might have been faking an injury by then.
Oh, your thumb, and I brought you tape.
Yeah, like my thumb, it still is, right? So I start to use that.
Yeah,
and
my thumb was fucked up too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always pretending to have some kind of injury so I can skip. Like if I'm like, oh, that guy looks tough, I'm gonna bag out. I'm like, oh, I have a pair of crutches in case
Pull them out real quick.
Yeah, I pulled them out. Of course, I also, talking about gi versus no gi, one of the things, I didn't train no gi at all until I was like a purple belt. because I didn't want to go against guys, you know, like to me, it always just seemed like it was for guys who were faster, you know, more explosive, and then, you know, all about leg locks. And I'm like, I don't want to be doing that. It's not jujitsu, right? If I can't lay on you and like see the light go out, you know, I don't want to. You know, I don't want to grab your foot and then like, you know, if I can't be smashing you and then like choking you, then I don't really want to be doing this. And so I did have, it was right around the time you were down here, I was in San Diego, and I was training footlocks with a guy at Victory MMA. And he just, you know, I walked into and it's one of those big schools, right? It's Jocko's school and Gary Tonin, you know. So it's a good school, and they're really, you know, it's a good place, but it's super popular, right? It's really like full of people. And this guy, he was a black belt. He was like, hey, you know, you don't want to train with like Gen Pop. He goes, all these like 20-something white belts. He goes, come in with me. You know, so he pulls me out of like, we're about to start sparring. He's like, come and train with me. And so I go and train with him, and he just keeps leg locking me relentlessly over and over again. And I have no idea what's going on because I never really trained leg locks. And, you know, so then like the next day, I'm like, okay. You know, he puts me in a leg lock, and he was totally reasonable. He wasn't like ripping stuff or anything like that, but I'm a dummy. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, you know, he puts me in like some kind of like a knee bar or something, and I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt yet. I'm used to that. Like, he's like, you should tap. I'm like, well, but I'm trying to figure it out, right? And then the next day I woke up and I was like, oh, I think I'm screwed. You know, and sure enough, it was like I probably didn't train. I was teaching, but probably didn't train for like 3 or 6, somewhere between 3 to 6 months. And I'm taking like all the, you know, body protective pills, you know, all these things that are supposed to rejuvenate my, you know, my ligaments. I'm taking all kinds of fish oil and stuff, and hoping that my knee gets better, because I can't do windshield wipers, and I can't rotate my legs, and I can't play any kind of hook game. And I'm like, something's definitely wrong. So I go and get an MRI, and sure enough, I had torn the meniscus. And so it was like a year. I had to go and get surgery down in Cabo. So I was like, I had the crutches, and I'm like, trying to come into class and like teach. Don't cry, right? So he's like, don't cry, man, don't cry. He's like, you just gotta train. You just gotta train. I'm like,
don't cry in the camera, please.
Yeah, but every time I move my leg like that, it stops moving. But I could still surf, right? So I was like, well, maybe this is just the way it goes, right? So I just quit jiu-jitsu because I can't do it anymore. But I can still surf, so I'm probably okay.
Be a professional surfer.
Yeah, right. I only started 45 years too late for that.
Semi-pro. Whatever.
Yeah, semi-pro. Yeah, I could probably, you know. So I finally, you know, I went and got that done. I was like, oh, see, I knew leg lock sucked. You know. Worthless, you know, forced me to get surgery. It's like, it's not jujitsu, you know, like if I didn't know that I'm injured until the next day, then it's not real, right? Like, that doesn't work. Jiu-jitsu doesn't work. You're right. It doesn't work on me, for sure. I've never gone out. I've never slept. He's never been asleep.
Yeah,
Never.
2 times.
2 times? I said you go out twice in a week.
Stubborn.
Little stubborn. He's
Yeah.
oh, I got surfer's neck. I won't go out. And he's like,
And I finally opened the Cabo.
yeah.
I dream fly on Cabo. And I open my eyes, I see Gary and the referee. Oh, man.
Did I win?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it's funny this day. It's in the final with my friends, with a really good friend, Axel. When I go to the final, I think, oh, I don't want to fight with my friend. He's a really good friend. Actually, Axel training with Todos Santos BJJ in the first time in Baja.
Yeah.
But he's like a friend. I don't want to fight with my friends. I don't like it, this sensation. And when I feel like the triangle is super, super deep. Okay, and then I don't remember more. I remember flying on Cabo.
Yeah. It's helpful. Axel's a doctor, so that was good.
That's ironic.
Yeah. He's like, I'm like, okay, he's fine. It'll be okay. And then a couple times in training, like, on the mat, I'm like, oh, he's just so stubborn. He's just gonna go out. Right.
I like it the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you found it.
It's just a little bit over to that side from.
Yeah. Stop before you.
Yeah, that's.
Sometimes I think in the technique, but in one moment, the TV is off.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because you're like, I can get out, and then you're like, and then it's black.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
I mean, like I watching my book. Okay, this technique for out to the triangle. What is
It's black.
Yeah.
Someone pulled the plug.
Yeah. Then you come back and everybody's looking at you, and it's the only time I've ever been out once. I was doing a private lesson, and the guy sets up the choke, and it was like me and my older brother were taking this private with a guy, and he sets up the cross collar choke, right? And he starts to go, and I'm on my knees in his guard, and my brother asks a question. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, hey, what's up? And the guy was Chris Howder, of all people, one of the Dirty Dozen. And he's like now like 2 feet away from me. And he's got this look on his face, like really concerned. And my brother's looking very concerned. And I'm still on my knees. Like I haven't moved. Now Chris has let go of the grips. And he scooted, so the tableau is like just a little bit different. It's like somebody just took it and like okay. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, you were out. No, I wasn't. I was like doing jujitsu, like in the sky with unicorns and shit.
Yeah. You don't know.
I'm like, I don't know. They're like, do you remember the snoring sound? I'm like, yeah, it was kind of bothering me. And the unicorn didn't like it. I remember that. And then it was like, man, I just had no recollection at all. I had no idea I was out. I was out, like just gone. I'm like, oh, hey. Yeah, it's a little spooky, right? Like, wow, I just lost like a minute of my life. I don't know where that went.
Yeah. I've never been out, so I don't know.
No?
I only was like,
We should do it on camera.
yeah, this is the perfect time.
Yeah, just sleep you.
You never sleep?
So you get the people to watch.
You ever been knocked out? That I think is harsh.
I've been. Oh, yeah. So I've been dropped, but not like out.
Yeah.
You get hit and you hit a knee and you're back up. I've been dropped that way once. I was out in my second fight in China. If you watch the fight, you can't tell until I tell you. So it was an inadvertent headbutt. I had like the underhook, and then he circled, and so my head met his head. So he got cut. So the ref. This is after he beat the shit out of my head. Like, I think it was like 8 punches or something like that. So when the ref separates us, you'll see me and I look like I'm fine. And I am, but I'm just not there. So he separates us and I'm just like, I look at the bad guy and I'm like this. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
No idea. And I hear Charlie in the corner. I think he was yelling at me. I don't remember. And I start walking over to his voice. And then by the time I got to him, I was back. But I was not there.
Yeah.
He had he rocked me pretty good. Yeah, that was a good one. But no, I don't think I've been put to sleep. But never knocked out. Not to sleep yet. But I've definitely been rocked. Definitely been rocked.
Yeah.
Kimberly, have you been put to sleep?
I got almost put to sleep that one time, but it was on the bell because I was in a triangle and I didn't feel myself going to sleep. But then the bell went off and everything went
Hear
black.
it muffled,
Yeah.
right?
But it went. I heard it in slow motion. It was like, and then I was like, it went black, and then I like passed out on his leg, and he obviously like let go of the triangle. The bell went off, and then I was like, I remember getting up and being like, what the fuck, and then being like, did that just happen? And he was like, yeah, did you just? And I'm like, yeah, I did.
Who was that?
I don't remember his name.
Oh.
It was one of the powerlifter guy. Andrew, and he came in with Andrew and Hunter, and he wore like cheetah print
The
shorts.
big dude?
Yeah.
Brandon Tallman.
Yes. Yeah.
Why would you be grappling him? He's
I
like
don't
6'7",
Power lifter.
200 something. I don't know. And she's like 100.
She's like, I want to beat guys like that.
No, he was nice. He wasn't like one of the guys that like sits on you for like 2-3 minutes.
I just smashed it.
Smashed it.
Yeah. But I felt fine until it wasn't fine.
Yeah.
We're an hour in.
Yeah.
I think we have time. I'll look at the battery. Oh, fucking shit. Everything hurts in my body.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've gotten dropped a couple times in Muay Thai. I always remember, like, so I had this one friend she was a pretty strong purple belt, but she was like a low-level pro MMA fighter. And I would do Muay Thai with her, and her favorite thing was to kick me full speed in the leg. Because she's like, Gary, you don't check leg kicks. She's like, that's because nobody kicks you hard in the leg. She's like, you have to understand that, you have to check this leg kick. And I'm like, yeah, but, and she'd always ask me, like, why aren't you doing this? I'm like, because if I do that, you punch me in the face. She's like, I know, but I'm going to punch you in the face anyway. So I was like, okay, fine. So she was always trying to teach me. She was nice enough about it, but she wasn't like nice, right? She was a pro fighter. So she's like, she was plenty mean. But so one day we're sparring and she starts kicking me in the leg, and I'm checking it. And next thing I know, she kicks me in the head, just flips it. Wasn't hard, it was no big deal, right? But she just flipped it up there and just landed so clean on the noggin. And it was like, right? Like, I didn't go to the knee, but it was like, it's so funny. Like, people are like, oh, you see stars, you hear that. He got his bell rung. I'm like, now I know what they mean. Like, it was really like, bong, And she's like, you're doing so good. I was like, thanks. So she decided that she was going to mix it up because I was finally learning how to check kicks. So she just flipped one up top and like just nailed me in the head. And I was like, oh my God, never wanted to do that again. And then I had another guy he did a Muay Thai sweep on me. And these guys, it was like the gym had just like puzzle mats.
Ouch.
On concrete. And when I landed, I was like, bong again. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Like if he had wanted to jump on me at that point and then start just ground and pounding me, I would have been dead. Right? Because I was defenseless. When I landed on my head like that, and I was like, and thank God, he was just like, oh shit, dude. I figured because you knew jujitsu, you knew how to fall. I was like, no, I know how to fall with grips. I don't know how to fall like, when you sweep me.
My legs get knocked out.
Yeah, when you kick your knee up under my butt and then throw me down, and like, no, I don't know how to do that. But my favorite was, I had a boxer. I was going with this boxer, and he just kind of, he was going pretty easy on it because I was just, I was like the old lame guy in a pretty competitive gym. So these guys would take it really easy on me. And he just liver shot me one day. And I saw it. He didn't wind up. It wasn't like there's no intent behind it. He just tapped me exactly like right on the liver button. And I've never felt anything like that. Like it was like somebody just shut my brain off. I was on my knees, like, oh, like immediately. I didn't even know what happened. He just touched me in the liver. I was on the ground. I'm like, oh God.
I've had that plenty of times.
Yeah. Like, that can't be good.
Yeah, it's not. It sucks. You're like, and you're fine too. You're like, yeah, and then you get hit, and you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm not good.
No, I gotta lay down now.
And then sometimes it's immediate too, where you're like, bang, you're like,
Yeah.
You can't breathe. You're like, oh yeah, I think I'm dying. Everything's dying inside.
Everything's dying.
Yeah, it's the worst.
My organs have decided to secede.
Yeah.
Like they just don't want to be in this body anymore. They're like, no, we don't want to be part of whatever it is you're doing. You're not doing a good job. We're leaving.
Yeah, freaking done.
Yeah.
You are fucking fired.
Oh, yeah.
Remember on Halloween? It was Halloween and it was sparring the same day, and you're like, I know what you're doing later. You're getting punched in the liver. And the whole time, my elbows were just down. Like, I want to eat the punches to the face. Because I'm like, I'm not taking a liver shot.
Not gonna happen. No, not gonna happen.
No.
Oh man, that's funny.
Well, and that's back to the self-defense thing, right? Like I know. So when I started when you do Taekwondo, right? Everybody is right-handed because it screws up the drills, right? If you go and you're like, I'm a southpaw or I'm left-handed. No, it can't be. It's not going to happen because it screws up everything. Nobody knows how to deal with somebody who has this hand forward. It completely messes up all the pad work and all the katas and everything else is screwed. So I walked into this Muay Thai school and they're like, all right, are you goofy foot? And I'm like, yeah. Like, your style is so awkward, you have to be a southpaw, right? So they're like, switch. So I switch, and they're like, much better, right? So suddenly I'm a southpaw, right? So I'm sparring with my brother, and he's regular. And of course, he's my older brother, and we're super competitive. And as you guys probably know, right, when you're doing, especially with Muay Thai, when you're southpaw, you tend to get kicked in the groin a lot because people are like trying to like kick your thighs and this and that, and the angle's just wrong. So I know from experience what it feels like to get kicked in the groin a lot because my brother had no control, no chill. He's a great dude, best friend. He's only got one gear, and that gear is kick Gary in the balls, like full on. Right? So you just like over and over again. I'm just like, I just can't. But, I also know like if I was trying to kill him, that wouldn't have stopped him. The liver, now if you kicked me in the liver, that would have stopped me in my tracks. I would have like, it's over. So Krav Maga, you should, instead of poking people in the eyes, you should teach them how to do that Bass root and slap.
Yeah.
That would work. That drops a guy.
That's a good one.
Getting kicked in the balls, I can tell you from experience, it sucks, but it doesn't like end you like that.
There's science behind that. I don't know it. I saw a video on it of why the liver shots just make you shut down like that, but I'm not educated enough to talk about that.
Yeah, me neither.
But there is a science behind it.
I've been told that it's like the nerves are the same ones that run through like your groin. That's why it feels like that. But why it shuts it down, I don't know.
It's like I'm not even going to talk about it because I'm not going to start making up stuff, but I saw a video.
Yeah. My theory is it's the same reason why like when you get choked, right? People are like, oh, it's blood choke and there's no blood to the brain. I'm like, no, there's basically like a valve there. And when it underpressurizes, it shuts the brain down. Because it's like, if there's too much pressure going from the head to the body, or there's not enough pressure, that means that things are really bad. And my theory has always been that it's a response to us in an earlier era. Like you go, what's the survival of like shutting me down? I'm like, because you're probably getting eaten, and you don't want to be awake for that. So like something's got you, there's enough blood coming out that the pressure is dropped now. You don't want to be awake when that thing eats you. So it's like your body's response like, oh, it's just a little kindness before you go.
A little send him on his way.
You don't want to be awake for this.
I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
No, then they're like, awesome, you're flying in Cabo.
Right? Yeah.
We're at an hour and 12, so we'll wrap it up here shortly. You want?
Well, two things. I was curious about just more of your stories of how you came, what made you decide to go to Mexico, and then also just how many years you've been training, and what also made you to decide to stay in Mexico as well.
Me?
For both of you.
Oh,
Pretty sure you got kicked out of Peru.
yeah. Well, I.
Because, yeah, you're from Peru. I don't know if that was said already, but.
Yeah. My history when I come.
And why you're still here.
Why?
Yeah.
I love the climb here. When I training in Guadalajara, I love surfing. And when I stay there, I feel like I love training there. Absolutely the team there, Lobo Gym, is really nice. They're really nice team. Now have fighters in UFC, Irene Aldana, Alexa Grasso. But I love surfing because I feel it's like a 1 year there. I said, okay. I talked with my family. Okay, I want to try there in Baja Sur. And when I come, surfing, but I miss martial arts, and this is the reason when I need training martial arts. I feel the reason I started martial art is for making better for surfing, for my cardio.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
yeah. I started surfing so early when I kid, but then I know I see the old guys training ballet todo, and then surfing better. Okay, I need this. I need training martial art, and then training. But when I come here, it's like the people don't know nothing of the martial arts. And then the first time I need to go to Cabo San Lucas with the Spartan team. And then it's too much work. Go there like three times on the week. And then Gary and Carla. And then say, I love this place. When I see the mat, it's new in the town. The martial is new here. Okay, why not? And then training with Gary. And then Leo. No, absolutely. Now I love the fusion, the grappling with jiu-jitsu. No, I love this fusion. Is really good. I love the explosion. From all the time. And grappling is good, and jiu-jitsu is working my other part. No, and for example, Gary tell me all the time, "Hey, passion, stay calm." No? Me sometimes I'm crazy. I wanna make but now I learn. Sometimes I need enjoy the moment, stay on the top. Okay, it's time for enjoying.
Cocinar.
Yeah, cocinar los frijoles. It's the code. It's the code in the tournament. Cocinar los frijoles, cocinar los frijoles. All the people, the coach told in the corner, cocinar los frijoles. All the people. But no, I understand. It's the code, the secret code in the team.
Do you notice a culture difference in like training in Argentina and Chile and different places in the gyms?
Oh, the culture?
Yeah, like gym culture in different countries.
Yeah. All is different. All the gym is different. No, in Argentina, I training with people training Tansudo. No, it's super different. And my teacher there is like so good with the high kicks, but my kick no is really, my low kick is good, but my high kick no is really good. But I learned it's different, no? All the gyms is so different. All the dojos is so different. For example, in Guadalajara, I thought it all the time training in the night, like a Lobos, in the night. And then I train in Black Bear in Guadalajara, And Tonalá is a lot of people like Tonalá is a little bit like a place a little bit dangerous. This is, the people is all the time go ahead.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's boxing, Mexican boxing is different vibe, no? But all the people hungry. A lot of people hungry. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's time for sparring. And you see there, you see all the people want to fight. No? But it's good. I learning. No, I take it a little bit from there. It's good. And then I make it my martial art. No?
Yeah, that's cool. It's like just so cool that you're gonna be able to take every single like gym from different countries, and then now you're teaching. So now you have a little bit from each of that country in each different gym that you've moved around, and you just get to teach in your own way from seeing these totally different teaching styles. It's just really cool.
Yeah, and take it. You know, the martial art for me. I am a small guy, 62 kilos. No, 125 pounds. No, I am not bigger. No, and this is, I like it. Like I need watching the technique. The technique is so important for a small guy.
Yeah, me too. And then for you, how long have you been in Mexico?
So I moved here full time about 3.5 years ago.
Oh, that's sooner than I thought.
Yeah, so it's just been a little while. I've been coming down about 5 years, and
24 years?
5
years?
5 years only. 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah,
Only 5 years?
5 years.
I think more.
Yeah. Yeah, because I grew. I didn't want to move to Mexico, right? Because yeah, I grew up in Southern California, so I had a lot of experience, and I would come down to Mexico as a kid, for like surf trips and that kind of stuff. Even though I didn't surf, they were surf themed drinking trips, because I'd come down with surfers and we just kind of like Rosarito, Ensenada, and places like that, and I didn't want to move down here. And then I actually worked in Mexico a little bit professionally as a consultant. And, so I spent a lot of time like in the border towns and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to, it's not for me. I don't want to live in Mexico. My brother lived and worked in Mexico City for a while, for about a year, when Mexico City was pretty dangerous, like back in the 2000s. And it's, if you ever go there now, it's like, it's just a beautiful city. It's just amazing, and it's really safe. But for a while there, it was pretty dangerous. And we're like, oh, we wanted to expat. But I really wanted to move to Portugal. Like I went there and I really loved like Lisbon and Porto and Madeira. But my wife didn't want to learn to speak Portuguese. It's really hard. And I already spoke Spanish, more or less. Like you grow up in Southern California, and I worked in kitchens for a living. So I pretty much spoke some Spanish. And, and so I was trying to expat. My older brother and I were trying to we were going to have a compound, or wanted to be near each other and our families. And nobody wanted to learn how to speak Portuguese except for me. And so, my brother came down, and he had been down here probably 30 years ago. And he's like, I'm just going to go down on a vacation. I know we said we're never going to move to Mexico, but I'm just going to go. And I was in Panama. And there was a guy down there who...
There's two.
Yeah.
Who else is the indoor one we can do?
Yeah. So I wanted to move to Panama because I thought Panama was pretty cool. And there was a guy who was in Easton, black belt, and he had a surf camp down there. And I was like, this is it, we're moving to Panama. And at that same time, my brother was here, and he's like, sorry, man. We just made an offer on a piece of property in Todos Santos. You got to get over here. And I'm like, we said never Mexico. We're never moving to Mexico. And so it took some convincing. I was pissed. I was not happy about it, because I was like, we said never Mexico. I'm in Panama right now. Panama's awesome. We should move to Panama. And he's like, can't move to Panama, man. it's just, it's just not going to happen. So I came here, I'm like, there's not even any jujitsu here, like I can't even get a hold of this guy, Rick Thornton. He won't answer my calls. There's no, like, I can't move to someplace without jujitsu. He's like, well, just start a school. Like, I'm a purple belt. I don't want to start a school. Like, that's not my dream. So I moved here and started a school. Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately, God, it was nice that like Rick he's the one who made it happen, because like the mats, and he had the things set up already.
It's kind of like that, like everything happens for a reason thing. It sounds like you were meant to have a new here.
Yeah, we moved here. We've been here 3.5 years, and like I love it. Like I'm never going back. I'm like, okay, this is home now for us. Like my wife is the same way. She's from Boise, Idaho. She's like, oh my God, we'll never go back.
Where are you from?
I grew.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up originally in Los Angeles area, and then I moved. Ended up in Boise, Idaho, which used to be really awesome, great place, and met my wife there, and it's one of those places like everywhere else. If you go and like, oh, you're from California, thanks for coming here and ruining it. And Boise was very much. I was like, yeah, I totally came here and ruined it. So now it was ruined. I could move on peacefully. Once they got a Starbucks, I knew my job was done. Yeah, this place.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, they have a Starbucks.
Fuck you, Boise.
Yeah, fuck you, Boise.
Go to Mexico.
And I'm taking your most attractive lady.
Yeah.
Win-win.
You guys could, Sorry, you're right. Californians ruin everything.
Real quick, Kimberly, did you talk about your experience being in another country for the first time and training?
Oh, training. Yeah, because I'd never been out of country at all. Not even to like Canada. And I'm like, hour drive from Canada. But I actually got my passport for this trip. I hadn't had a passport. And I trained with Oscar. I don't know, because I was trained at the old location with Oscar, but you have that new location too. So is that, do you just still have both gyms now?
No, we ended up moving out of that location because, honestly, it started because I wanted to be closer to my house, selfishly. So now the new gym is like a 5-minute walk. Not that I walk, but thank you, sir. But the other thing was that, talking to Oscar, especially like so many of our students, we're here in Todos Santos, and so many of our students either lived in Cerritos or lived in Pescadero. And it felt like, Todos Santos is the bigger town, but it doesn't have as much of a like athletic lifestyle appeal. Like the people that come to visit Todos Santos tend to be like, they come here for the art and the quaint village and the restaurants and all that stuff. And they don't come to like surf or mountain bike or, God forbid, train jujitsu. Mm-hmm. So, and out of all of our regular students, probably I would guess like 70% of them either lived in Cerritos or Pescadero. So we figured, I'm like, you know what? We'll just move.
Yeah. Well, that location is like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I walked up the stairs and I was like, no way. Even driving up, I was like, this doesn't even seem real. And then
it's all right.
I mean, it's not. It's not like Team United.
Yeah. Not like
Team United is like nothing I've ever
It doesn't
seen
have
in my
a heater.
Yeah, you just have the sun, and it's all open.
Fuck the sun. He's a little bitch.
Right.
But it's super cool. It is.
I mean, we do have an ocean view and ocean breezes and all that, which is
those things.
Which is pretty nice.
But it was interesting training more with the first we haven't stopped training yet, and we haven't done the classes yet. We just did 2 open mats at your gym.
Yeah.
And I trained separately with just Oscar when Chris was at
Yeah.
your gym.
I notice Chris doesn't want you picking up any of my bad habits. Because as an MMA coach, he's terrified. I'm going to
Stay
teach you how to
away.
play deep half guard, which is the ultimate way to get punched in the face, I guess.
But it's interesting the language barrier because, but it's I don't obviously speak Spanish, but just knowing a couple simple words and you're like, we're bonding through the training, and also just show them, and then I don't know his name. He had no gi. I think he's having a fight, an MMA fight, this coming month.
One of your students?
Wait.
Él dice entrena con uno de sus estudiantes y ella tiene una pelea en el próximo mes.
Oh, Coral.
No, it's a guy with no gi. No.
Sin kimono, un hombre.
Oh, Gabriel. Gabriel.
But I was partners with him most of the time,
Yeah.
and it was just interesting because he had like little English, but I have little Spanish, but we could still be like, oh, this is what we're doing wrong, and this is what we're supposed to be doing, and that
Yeah.
type of thing. It's just overall cool, and then seeing Oscar teach and all the things I can implement next time I teach my classes, and all the things I look at, I'm like, oh, why am I not doing those things when I'm teaching? So it's really cool experience. I've said cool like 70 times, but it's
Is it cool?
it's super.
So you can
So
use
cool.
tan chido.
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 It's my Chido.
Sí,
Sí.
tan chido, so
chido.
cool.
So cool.
Tan chido.
Tan chido.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it's fun because I was learning how to teach at the same time I was learning how to teach in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching people, like when Oscar came in, it was great because, he had a background. He already knew, how to do jujitsu. And Leo was pretty similar. He had kind of a wrestling fight he had done. He was like special forces. He'd had a couple fights. So he knew kind of a lot of that stuff already. But the fun part was like Ryan, who was about 50 pounds heavier when he showed up. He was, chubby. He's a big gamer, had done nothing physical. He'd grown up surfing, but he had done nothing physical. He'd done no fighting, no BJJ, none of that stuff. He watched Dragon Ball Z a lot. In fact, that's his username on Facebook is Ryan DBZ. He's super into that. So, I'm like, okay.
He was heavier?
Oh, he was fat.
Huh.
Right?
He's got like a six-pack now.
Yeah, he was really gordo,
He's
man.
all slim.
Yeah.
He's all slim.
Yeah, Ryan's
Slim.
changed the life.
Yeah.
The BJJ.
Yeah, he was really pretty tubby when he came
Huh.
in.
That's crazy.
And that's always for me, that's the big one. Like I love seeing that. Like he came in and he went from being a guy who was like on that route where he was just gonna get bigger and bigger and eating junk food and playing video games and smoking pot. That was all he was doing with his life. And he was, he had his professional life, but to watch him like kind of turn that around because he fell in love with jiu-jitsu. And then we have like Myra, who's
She's on Saturday.
yeah, she's kind of the smaller girl. She came in, a friend of hers dragged her in. And
She's really sweet.
yeah, she's really sweet, but we always like the joke is that because she's so sweet and shy, but if you roll with her, she's pretty ferocious. So we're like always like Myra, her nickname is the Assassinina because she just gets like when she's going, like she gets really tough. And we're like, okay, she only sees. I learned how to say in Spanish. She only sees red, right?
Oh my God.
It's just like, Myra, no rompe sus juguetes. Like, don't break your toys. And people like, now she knows. Like, she thought we were just making fun of her, but for now she understands that. No, it's like we actually like respect her because she's like, she did come from like a sedentary lifestyle. Her friend brought her in. And then the friend, of course, disappears. But Myra's like, man, she's stuck with it. She's just like, she's ferocious.
Like Gary all the time, hey, slow. You don't know the technique? Slow, please.
Yeah.
And when the Myra is, pop. go. It's so explosion. No?
Yeah.
And it's crossing the car.
Yeah.
Hey, Mayra, make it omelette, special.
No rompe los huevos, right? Like, don't break the
Crossing
eggs.
car.
Like, you got to be careful. She just get.
Good when you're teaching the crucifix.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like I saw the first, like, when I was teaching front headlocks and guillotines, which are pretty brutal, you know, and she latched onto that.
I know she was
She
doing
was
like
going for it.
Yeah.
Oh, she loves it. She just wants to grab your head and rip it off. I was
Yeah.
like, don't tear the head off. No, choke them. Don't tear their head. Like, I don't even know how to say, like, romper la cabeza del cuerpo. Like, don't tear the head off the body. Right? Like, that's not what you're doing. She's just like, man, I'm like, oh my God. And I just, and for her, to see her, and now she's posting pictures, like her Instagram is her working out,
That's awesome.
Her like being like so much more confident, like in herself. And I'm like, that's awesome. You know, that as a coach, that is what makes it for me, is to see her, see people like that, see Ryan like find his confidence and find his groove, and see Myra like figure out that she's an athlete. To me, that's like that. That's what's cool. That's what's important. Tan chido.